So Daddy hid in a bush until the mean man, who falsely claimed Daddy owed him money, couldn't find him, got bored and went away. God, you're still not tired, are you? No. Here, how about another story? Why don't I tell you about the time Daddy went way up above the Arctic Circle to try to find the Northern Lights, which, by the way, were nowhere to be bloody... Do you want to be quiet? I've got to deliver my lines. I've got to deliver my lines. I've been practicing these. Yeah? I'm going to be practicing. Which, by the way, were nowhere to be bloody seen. It was a really big adventure, but as it happened way back in 2008, when cameras were still pretty rubbish, we get to enjoy this story in stunning 240p. Obviously, to see the Northern Lights, you've got to go north, really north. So I went way up here to Lapland. Well, Swedish Lapland, which sort of counts. Yeah, Lapland. That's where Father Christmas comes from. To Sweden's northernmost city, Kiruna. And after I got off the plane... don't know how usable this footage is going to be. Let's just see what the rest looks like. Oh, no, we can't use these. It's just going to give me a headache. Let's just swap to photos instead. And after I got off the plane and tucked into some tasty reindeer and chips, yum, I waited for the night to come to get my first glimpse of the Northern Lights. But, there weren't any. And as I was about to find out, seeing them is a real pain in the arse. Because so many things affect their visibility, from the time of year, the Earth's geomagnetism, solar activity, to the weather itself. And that means despite the sun's solar particles travelling millions of miles through the cosmos, getting drawn towards the Earth's magnetic poles, and then colliding with our atmosphere to make a spectacular light show for all to see, all of that can be undone simply by being a cloudy day. And the city's light pollution wasn't helping much either. Here, wait a second, before we carry on, there's something I want to try and work out that's really bugging me. Is Kiruna a city or a town? Because Visit Sweden calls it a city, but Kiruna's own website calls it a town. Okay, Wikipedia, it's over to you. Was a city... municipality reform in the 70s. Oh, that's an interesting subject. Maybe I'll do a video about that. Let's just go with the very small city of Kiruna. But anyway... And the small city's light pollution didn't help much either. But that's okay, because thanks to my expert harnessing of the raw photographic power of the Fujifilm FinePix A800, I was able to take these photos of the falling snow, which at the time I probably thought were quite arty, and I resigned myself to trying again tomorrow night. The next morning I explored Kiruna, where I took some pictures of some fish, a brown building, a yellow building, and for whatever reason, these 7 chairs. I also saw the very big mine in the distance, which has some of the largest iron ore deposits in the whole world and has provided the city with a vast majority of its wealth, with the ever so slight side effect of making parts of the city sink in the process. And after seeing the city, I got to visit the Sami, one of, if not the only, indigenous groups still living in Europe. They're roughly 80,000 strong, mostly living across northern Norway and Sweden, and they have a long tradition of reindeer herding. And those reindeer are adorable, especially when they look up at you with their big doe eyes. Yeah, just like Bambi. And I got to feed them, which was a really cute moment. Just ignore the fact I'm carrying the skin of one of his friends in my other hand. And after all that, night came and I went for another wander. And, well, still no Northern Lights. I did see a few ice statues and tried a bit of the local snooze, but that just gave me a headache, so I called it a day. The city's light pollution was a problem, so I knew I'd have more luck seeing the Northern Lights the next day as I ventured 12 miles east of Kiruna to... this place. Where first I did some snowmobiling, which I have no snarky aside or pithy thing to say about because, to be totally honest, it was just really fun. And then I met these. Yeah, doggies! But these were nothing like my podgy childhood Labrador cross thingy, but a completely different species of dog. Raw slabs of lean protein just bristling with energy. Hyperactive, noisy, and desperate for a run. Who, by the way, poo whilst running, and that poo can then get flicked up in your face, somewhat dampening the romantic image I had of this in my head. But as the day came to a close, a bitter cold front swept in and clouds filled the sky, and by night there was no visibility in the sky at all, which sucked. But at least I got to spend a night in the Ice Hotel, the first one ever built. They actually have to rebuild it every year. And as I browsed all the lovely ice sculptures in the rooms, I kept wondering which one of these rooms am I going to sleep in? The dragon room, the mermaid room, oh, this one even has a car. But then Daddy was told these were all VIP rooms and he was too poor to sleep in them, and he'll be sleeping in a more basic ice room instead. And as the temperature outside plummeted, I visited the hotel's ice bar, where I got to enjoy a lovely glass of blue, all served up in an ice glass. A crazy moment, beautifully captured by the Fujifilm FinePix A800. And once the alcohol set in, I went for this, quite frankly, incredibly sexy pose, which I'm pretty sure I could have pulled off, if it weren't for the tears in my trousers. And then, before bed, I braved the cold and popped outside for one last hopeful chance to see the Northern Lights, just to be greeted with a temperature which was a somewhat fresh -35 degrees Celsius. A level of cold so cold, it didn't even feel cold. Instead, my face was slapped with a sharp icy sting. At which point I happily retreated back inside to the relatively tropical -5 degrees Celsius and called it a day. The next morning, I collected my certificate commemorating the fact that I'd survived the Ice Hotel, which along with all my other novelty travel certificates, all eventually ended up in my secure long-term filing storage. And then I decided to make the most of my last full day above the Arctic Circle, because despite all the culture and all the experiences you can have up here, the best thing is this extraordinary location. It's a place where you can walk and walk along isolated snowy tracks until there's nothing else around, where the only thing you're going to see is the occasional sign letting you know how far you can trek across the snow just to get to Finland. That evening, I left the wilderness and returned to the bright lights of Kiruna in order to catch my flight home the next day, having missed the opportunity of seeing the Northern Lights. But during the night, around 2 AM, I woke up and looked out my window, and there they were. And yeah, doing it justice was way beyond the capabilities of the Fujifilm FinePix A800, so to better convey the significance of the moment, here's some way better stock footage instead. But that's okay, because my own crappy pictures do the most important thing when it comes to travel. Because travel isn't about experiences, travel isn't about memories, travel isn't about any of that. It's about having just enough proof that you have seen something, so that when you bump into someone who hasn't, like Mummy, you can rub it in her face. Good night, sweet prince. Hope you enjoyed the story. There's another video on the screen right now if you want to click on it. And you can always subscribe to see more hilarious travel videos. And don't forget a like so we can try and reach new people. But other than that, night night.